I'm your host, Jason Tartick, and welcome to Trading Secrets. We talk all things money on this podcast, and we're teaching all the stuff we just weren't taught in the classroom. Nothing supports this show more than liking, commenting, and of course, subscribing. Welcome back to another episode of Trading Secrets. Today, we are joined by Survivor Season 48 champion Kyle Fraser. After 26 days of outwitting, outplaying, and outlasting, in one of the most grueling reality competition shows out there in television history, Kyle walked away with the $1 million prize and the title of Sole Survivor. Known for his strategic gameplay, clutch immunity wins, and ability to build trust in even the most cutthroat situations, Kyle's season has been called one of the most exciting in recent memories. Today, we are going to unpack the strategy, the mindset, and my favorite, the behind-the-scene moments that ultimately led to his victory and what life has been like since leaving the island. I'll tell you what, Kyle, a lot of action. You were a teacher, now attorney, now a Survivor winner, and you won $1 million. Thank you so much for being on Trading Secrets.
Dude, thank you, man. That was awesome.
Yeah, I mean,
I appreciate
there's
it.
so many things that I got with this. Like, I don't even need my notes here, but I'll look at them. Why not? Because I'm so interested in the behind the scenes of Survivor, you know, how production plays, if they do play, what kind of food you get, all that. But we're a money podcast, so we got to come out swinging right from the get-go.
Do it.
I saw an awesome video. If you guys are here, go follow Kyle on Instagram. It's his video where you are surprising your wife about the fact that you won $1 million, and you're telling her, like, I won it. I told you I would make this happen. I told you we would find wealth. And it's like the most beautiful thing in the world. You're telling me in that video, she truly had no idea?
I swear to God, hand to God. So that was in my brother's basement in LA. So when you fly back from Fiji, you come back to LA and then everybody has a connector, you know, go home. My brother actually, like, I think 5-6 days before I went out for Survivor, had his second kid. And I hadn't got a chance to meet him yet because I had to fly to LA and then go to Fiji, whatever. So I come back and I was like, I'll stay in LA for a couple of days. So I'm in his basement, got to meet the kid after, like, you know, 26 days of the jungle, like holding new life in your hand. But long story short, my wife, Maggie, then fiance, she had flown into LA and came to my brother's came to my brother's place, and I didn't tell anybody before I saw her.
Yeah.
Came downstairs. I don't know what possessed me to put the phone up, but I put it in the little corner. It's a little blurry. And I wanted to make her guess at it.
Yeah.
And she hates guessing at things. So she was like, can you please just tell me? And I was like, screw it. Like, I won $1 million.
I mean, unbelievable. What a surprise that must have been for her. Let me ask you this. You know, it's a 26-day Survivor challenge, as everyone knows. You're out there for a long period of time. You win the $1 million. Do they pay you immediately? Do you have to wait a certain period of time? Like,
No.
Do you have your $1 million yet?
I got my $1 million. That money hits your bank account the day that the moment the finale ends.
Wow.
Yeah. So, you know, May 21st, I want to say, was our finale. I opened up my bank account after watching the episode with all the production people and all my castmates and friends and family are there. And there's just, like, I have a Charles Schwab bank account. It has like a little graph in there.
Yeah.
And it just went from like this to just shooting off the screen. Next thing you know, I get like emails like, Mr. Fraser, we're so glad you're banking with us. I'm like, what the fuck is going on?
Like that amount, I mean, we talked money on this podcast. That had to be like 10x what was in your bank account.
For sure.
Yeah.
Embarrassed what was in it before.
Yeah.
Like,
you're a hardworking individual, and we'll talk a little bit about your professional life. Before we do that, though, in this video, everyone's a critic. Everyone's got a comment about something. and you said in the video, we're now millionaires. And then, of course, all the comments were like, well, after taxes, you're not a millionaire. $400. So I want to ask you, when they give you that amount, do they take the taxes out for you, or do you have to plan for that yourself now?
No, it's pre-tax. So I had to plan for it myself. So it's just $1 million. You get $1 million.
I don't know why. I'm like, that's awesome.
Yeah, it's actually really interesting. I won't bring it up. But yeah, it's pre-tax $1 million, and then you have to plan for that yourself. So I actually, you know, have been working on that the past couple months, you know, different investments, high yield savings account, yada, yada, yada. But I think between, you know, federal tax and New York State and New York City, it comes out to like $359 that you get
In
taken
tax,
out.
yeah.
But what are you gonna do?
Yeah.
I actually earned the money when I went on Survivor. I was living in Columbus, Ohio, so I was kind of wondering, like, can I pay the Ohio taxes? But I'm not gonna screw around. I'm just gonna do what I got to do.
That's smart right there. All right.
Yeah.
So the $1,000,000, it kind of reminds me like the way you were envisioning it of like going into Charles Schwab and seeing that money go up. It's reminded me of Squid Games. Like obviously a different concept.
Yeah.
But when he looks at the bank account, there's all this money in there. One of the biggest questions, the money mafia, that's who listens to the show, was asking is, what do you do now? Like where you got to splurge on something. You got to buy something that's maybe an outlying thing. Where and how are you going to treat yourself?
So it's funny. So I know you're not supposed to do this money mafia, but I was planning in advance. So maybe I used a little bit of the money beforehand. My wife and I got married September 14th, which was about a month and a half after I got back, and probably one of the largest purchases I ever made. I bought us Taylor Swift tickets. So we went to Toronto. I want to say a month or two after our weddings and the end of the Eras tour. I think it was like the second to last concert. So that was a splurge.
How much were those tickets?
I want to say that I want to say all in all, this was like a $8,000 to $9,000 endeavor.
Oh, you had like front row seat.
Bro, we were in there, but going to Toronto, doing a couple different things. I remember it being like, okay, like we're going all in on this.
Yeah. Sure.
And I mean, it was every penny was worth it. Like she's a massive Taylor Swift fan. I obviously respect the music, and we had a great time. But
I
that
love
was a splurge.
Good.
And I'm gonna throw a party. I've always said if I ever like hit gold, I would throw a massive party. So I'm working on that too.
Okay, good stuff. You're gonna do it. It's gonna happen. $1,000,000 is now in your bank account. If for other people that are playing the show, like, are you at all paid to be on the show at all? Is there any other type of financial compensation that maybe we wouldn't know behind the scenes or anything like that?
So I think it's pretty common knowledge that second place gets $100,000.
Yeah.
And then I think it sort of goes from there. There's certainly not, I mean, I can't get into production stuff too much, but there's certainly not like any sort of appearance fee or anything like that.
Gotcha.
But like, there's prize money for each place.
Yeah. Okay.
And I think that's pretty settled. Everybody knows about the million. Everybody knows about second place. And then from there, it kind of moves accordingly.
Okay, gotcha. One thing that people, if they saw the show, they know. If they didn't see the show, they might not know. Michigan grad, you were a teacher. From being a teacher, you went back to school. You are now, you define it as a white collar criminal defense attorney.
Yep, white collar.
Did I nail that?
Attorney.
Okay, so that's a big career pivot for you. After you won the $1,000,000, was there any part of you that said like, I'm going to take some time off work?
Yeah, so it's funny. When I went on Survivor, I was actually working for that judge in Columbus, Ohio.
Mhm.
So it's called a clerkship, where you get a year off of your normal job and you go and work for a judge. If you're a litigator like me, you help them decide cases, advise on different issues that come up in their cases, travel with them. It's a really awesome gig. You sort of learn how the sausage is made behind the scenes.
Yeah.
Then you come back and you become a better litigator. So I came back from Survivor. I was ending that clerkship with the judge, who was incredible for even letting me go on the show.
Mhm.
And then I came back to my firm in New York. So since winning Survivor, I've now come back. But the funny thing is, it hadn't aired yet. So I'm like working my job at this, white collar litigation boutique that I love. And everyone's like, oh yeah, you're on a reality TV show. Like, and so they're slowly realizing that I have a shot at this thing, which was a really cool process to watch. But to answer your question, I think I'm always going to want to be a lawyer. Like, I have other interests. I like to write. I've always wanted to teach. Again, I used to teach, but I just love being a lawyer. I love sort of problem solving. I think that was shown on the show a lot. And I think that those skills definitely helped me a ton, but I'll always be a lawyer in some shape or fashion.
You talked about the fact that your superpower is your charm and that you're a people person. You also talked about the fact you're a little impulsive, but one of the things you probably had to keep close to your chest is the fact you are a litigator, because litigators are quick, you are sharp, you know how to do your research and your due diligence, and then you know how to execute with your delivery. Is that something that you kind of kept close to the chest intentionally while playing the game?
Yeah, I actually told people that I was a teacher. So the way that I sort of looked at my strategy, like, I really wanted to come across as non-threatening as possible. So I rewinded my life about 4 years. And I said that I was teaching. I used to teach at a boarding school. So that's exactly what I said I did. I said I met my wife there instead of law school. And it's really funny because on Survivor, it's a trope. When you're a lawyer, you don't tell people that you're a lawyer. Very rarely do people ever say it, because for whatever reason, people think lawyers are like skeevy, or they're trying to get one off of them. And listen, those lawyers exist. I certainly think it's hilarious because we have to follow like the bar and rules, ethical rules. And it's funny though. I think that while my like legal problem solving skills definitely helped me, I want to say my teaching skills really kind of got the job done because I really played a people-oriented game, and just teaching and being in the classroom and knowing what each and every kid needs and sort of tailoring your lesson plan to that. It was huge for me because I really feel like I was able to develop relationships with tons of different people on that island. But the legal skills and the persuasion, that obviously came into time.
That makes sense. We're going to get into some of the details of Survivor. That is coming soon, but I am curious as far as litigation. What is one thing when it comes to litigation, us back home and me personally just talking to you right now, what is one thing we might not know? Give me a trading secret behind litigation. Maybe it's a tip, maybe it's a trick, a strategy that you deploy, but like what's something in that world we wouldn't know otherwise asking you?
Yeah, I mean, I hope this doesn't come across as far-fetched, but it's just the creativity. When I went to law school, am I selling my soul? Am I sort of giving up this side of myself that like to just follow this rule-oriented profession?
Mm-hmm.
But being a litigator means being creative. You find all these cases and precedent that allow you to like argue your case to the best of your ability. And a lot of times you feel as if you're pigeonholed by that precedent. But there's so many different ways to interpret a case. There's so many different ways to utilize precedent and interpret it in new ways that can make for very compelling arguments. And I feel as if, especially working as a clerk and seeing so many cases from that side as a neutral arbitrator, I feel as if the best litigators are one who are creative, who take chances, who like try new arguments instead of playing exactly by the book every single go. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
Like you really have to think outside of the box. And I think some of the coolest issues I've ever worked on are ones where I've had a chance to really think about the law in a creative, different way.
Interesting. We've had Savannah Chrisley on the podcast. She talked a lot about her parents who were sentenced to 12 and 8 years for what's considered white collar crime, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
And they were pardoned by the president, but one of their biggest arguments in that case was that they weren't aware of what was being done by their accountant or their attorney. And this is more of a blanket question, but when you're litigating in white collar crime and you are in a defense position, do you find that majority of these people aren't aware of what's actually happening, or is it more often than not they know what had happened and then you have to work around that?
Yeah, I mean, obviously it depends on the case, but there are, I mean, intent is plays such a big role in these
Yeah.
criminal cases and even civil prosecutions and things of that nature. There's so many times you see where somebody knows that they're doing something wrong, but they don't know exactly what they're doing wrong. So when
Yeah.
they get hit with the book, it's so different than what they expected. There are people who genuinely are going about their business and they don't know that they were doing something wrong because a lot of these regulations and laws are written in confusing manners. They're spider webs sometimes, even think about it, if you get charged with some obscure criminal case and it takes me as your lawyer some time to figure out exactly what's going on and why you were prosecuted with this.
Mhm.
I think about the person who's going about their everyday business. That said, I think there are some times where people know they're doing something wrong and
Yeah.
it's just, point blank, cut and dry. But I see so many cases, and I think everyone in this profession would say they see so many cases where people don't know what they were doing or didn't even intend to do the exact wrong thing that they were doing.
Okay. Have you ever been? People talk about white collar criminals that go to jail, and they talk a little bit about it's like a little bit of a fluffy jail, right? It's like it's cushy in there. Have you ever actually been to a prison that is for white collar criminals? And if you have, like, what does that look like compared to like a state prison?
Yeah, no, so it's so interesting. I mean, I think that that's sort of a trope.
Okay.
A lot of times when people get charged with crimes, they go to the same jails and prisons that other people go to.
Okay.
It's funny, you're talking to the right guy. I don't know if this came up at all, but I actually have a history with incarceration.
I did see that.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
I've been incarcerated 3 different times. Nonviolent misdemeanor offenses off my record, et cetera, et cetera. But it's so interesting. I mean, yeah, people are put in it's all the same box for the most part. There might be instances where somebody needs to be put in protective custody. They're well known. They might need a little bit more of a different population. Age is like obviously a factor in a lot of ways. But a lot of times it is the same place that everyone goes.
Yeah. Okay. Interesting. So that is a little bit of a trope. That's fascinating stuff. I know you talked about it on the show and you had mentioned it here. Have you at all specifically disclosed what you were arrested for or no?
Yeah, I had a drunken disorderly charge
Yeah.
that I think that was in large part in relation to, not to get into hot button topics, but racial profiling,
Yeah.
underage possession of alcohol
Uh-huh.
is something. I had 2 of those. And I think that a lot of those were just in relation to me being very young.
Yeah.
I grew up in sort of a small town area where
Mhm.
individuals, you start drinking at a very young age, and, drinking amongst other things for other people in my community. But I had a lot of contact with the criminal legal system growing up. I'd say, like, of course, I take accountability for anything that happens in my life,
Sure.
but a lot of that dealt with just me looking different than the people that were around me too. I played lacrosse in college, was there on a scholarship. I went to a private school and in high school on scholarship as well. But I grew up in sort of an urban Black community, rural white community, and then went to school amongst affluent white individuals.
Mm-hmm.
So I've kind of always viewed myself in many different spaces that have always sort of allowed me to navigate in different ways.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's definitely an interesting background, especially being a lawyer and where I'm at today. And it's really cool to sort of be where I'm at, I guess.
Yeah, and it's such important messaging to use platforms, whether it's Survivor, podcast, wherever, to continue to speak about that and your experiences and everything you've learned from that. So I think that's awesome. And look where you are today.
Yes, sir.
Now you're an attorney. I love it. Now talk to me before we move into Survivor. We talk money here from a teacher perspective, going into law work. What's the difference in pay?
Dude, so when I started teaching in 2016, I was teaching at an all boys boarding school in North
Okay.
Carolina. I want to say that the pay there was $28,000.
Wow.
I think maybe the second year I was there, I think I got up to like 31. The catch there was I was in the boarding school. So I lived on campus, got free housing, 3 meals a
Gotcha.
day. I was coaching football and lacrosse. So that was what that was.
But that's a tight budget.
Yeah.
To be living off $28,000, $31,000. That's tight.
Yeah. And I have obligations to my family too. My
Yeah.
brother and I our parents took care of us and we've
Okay.
always made sure to take care of them, even back then.
Yeah.
Went to law school, took on more debt and wasn't making any money then. And then I got out. And I think at the time, going into big law, I worked at a big law firm before I moved to my boutique. I did labor and employment litigation. I want to say the base salary for a first year was $190.
Wow.
And then I think in the middle of my first year, it bumped up to $205, which literally, I think what is that, quadrupled, quintupled, whatever the word is, my salary.
Yeah.
So it was
That's
insane, man.
6-7 times. That's
Yeah.
that's unbelievable. Just so you do your 3 years at a great school, right? So Michigan, go blue, and
Yes,
then
sir.
you get hired. Is there bonus potential when you work as an attorney at like a big firm like that?
Yeah, there's always a bonus. The pay is lockstep for these firms. So there's, how many AM 100 firms, even more so. And especially in the markets like New York, Chicago, LA, they're all the same. They're all lockstep. So everyone.
What is that for someone that doesn't understand that, like me? What
Yeah.
does lockstep mean?
Yeah, it means that everybody's getting paid the exact same thing across the profession in that specific
Wow.
role.
So like first year law students in that firm, no matter where you are, you're making $190.
$190.
Got it.
Yep.
Interesting.
And then when one firm moves up to 205 in the middle of the year because they want to come across as better than all the other firms,
Sure.
the other firms all move up to 205.
Interesting.
So you know what you're getting paid. Bonuses for the most part are very similar to that. There are a couple firms that, have black box earning potential and don't necessarily tell people what their bonuses are going to be. But for the most part, those bonuses across all of those firms are lockstep too.
Interesting. Okay. So
Yeah.
bonuses too. All right. That's a huge step up from teaching. Now you're making a couple $100,000. And then like once you get, and I'm going to go to Survivor, my Survivor fans, I'm going in just 1 second. But when you continue to work up the ladder in a big firm like that, 2 questions I have for you is what is like earning potential look like, just high level? And then also how many hours a week are you working when you start off?
So when I started off, I was working a lot of hours. It's a demanding job.
Yeah.
It's
Like
really
60, 70?
60, 70, sometimes 80.
Wow. That'll get you ready for Survivor.
Yeah. And it's different, right? It's different because there's the corporate roles. I'm a litigator, right?
Yep.
So my schedule's a little bit more or like structured.
Yep.
I sort of know what's coming down the pipeline. But when you're a young associate, you're at the whims of everybody at the firm.
Yeah.
You're working amongst senior associates, you're working for partners, and then you're working for the client at the top, right? And so, yeah, something could pop up. You're doing the groundwork, you're doing the grunt work. So you're working 70, 80-hour weeks a lot of times. And the difference for me, especially with my friends who aren't in that environment, they don't know that, my phone is on all the time. It's not a 9 to 5. You're answering emails anytime they come in.
24.
You miss something at 10:30, you could get in trouble for that.
Wow.
Now, that's not always the case. People are reasonable, but it's possible. And so you're working really hard.
Interesting. All right. Well, we're going to transition into Survivor. It's so cool to learn about other industries. You decided to go on the show, 26 days off. Was there any risk that you might have lost your job when you made this decision?
So when I was clerking for an awesome judge. And, at first I was really scared to bring it up to him, especially because clerkships, it's a 1-year position. There's only 3 people. They're, not trying to brag, but they're really prestigious. And I
Sure.
was a federal appellate clerkship. I was working on the 6th Circuit, and it's great experience. So the deal that I made with my judge, he actually almost had somebody go on the Bachelorette, one clerk. So there was some precedent for this.
No way.
But the deal that I made with him, because Survivor was going to be at the last month and a half of my clerkship, with appellate cases, you get the entire record. So like, it's already gone to trial. The lawyers have already done their thing there. And now I, as a clerk, get to see the entire record and then make a decision with my judge. Of course, the judge makes a decision, but you get it in advance, about a month and a half, 2 months in advance. So I made a deal with my judge for about a month and a half. I just grinded and got all of my cases done in advance so that by the time that sitting would come around, I would be in Survivor, but the cases would have already, in theory, we've already gone through the process. He would have decided them already. So it was weird. It was a grind because, clerkships are typically viewed more as that 9 to 5, but we sort of turned it into this like high pressure thing where I needed to get all this work done. I didn't want to let down my co-clerks, my coworkers, and didn't want to let down the judge first and foremost, and like do my civic duty because I'm a government employee. So it really worked out because I don't know if in another job it would have necessarily gone that way.
I hope that judge looks back today and says, wow, thank God I let him go.
Oh, he's pumped up. I think he threw a Survivor birthday party.
Hell yeah. I love it. I love it. All right. Well, let's go back to where we started. And where we started was the video of you telling your wife you won $1 million. In that video, you also mentioned, I am chiseled, because she's saying you lost some weight. So you're there for 26 days. How much weight did you lose?
Yeah, I lost 28 pounds. I want to say when I went into Survivor, I bulked up just a little bit. I put on a little,
intentionally, right?
Yes.
Knowing that you're going to lose weight.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. So I bulked up. I put on some fat. I got as strong as I could be, trained for strength. And then I put on extra fat about 2 weeks before I went out there. I want to say I was at 193. And then I know for certain that I was down 28 pounds at the end of the game. And I was just a skeleton. Wow. There's a picture of me holding my newborn nephew who I'd mentioned, and I just look gaunt. And so when Maggie saw me, she almost started crying just because how skinny I was.
How hard is that? I mean, we know that there's the struggle for food on this season. You guys essentially are given no food at all. That's like a reality. There's not even like a producer here and there throws you an orange or a vitamin, nothing like that. You actually have no access to food at all.
No, man, no access to food. You have to go get it yourself. I caught a fish.
Yep,
you win fishing gear. Caught a fish. We dug in the ground for different roots and, starches and things like that we were able to find because we had a survivalist on my initial tribe. Coconuts are a huge source of, calories. I mean, the amount of calories that you can get in them is minuscule, but you sort of use them to hydrate and stuff like that. But yeah, no food unless you earn it.
Was there any time that you felt like you were going to like literally pass out from?
Oh, all the time. I mean, that's the thing about starvation that I just wasn't aware of. And I use this term starvation loosely because at some points in the game I did earn food, but when you're at your limit with food, every single time you try to get up, you feel like you're going to pass out. It's actually insane. I've never really dealt with anything like that. Sometimes my wife will be like, oh, I feel a little like I might just pass out. I stood up too fast. I've never felt that before until then, where at the point you're making strategic decisions every time you sit down because you know how much energy it's going to take for you to get back up.
That's
pretty crazy.
Unbelievable. At any point during the game, and I know it's very frowned upon in the community, but is there any point that you're like, I might tap out? and did any of your peers feel that way?
I did not. I actually, I'm not even trying to sound like a tough guy because all that stuff sucks physically, but at the same time, it's just the time of your life.
Mm-hmm.
I'm getting to know, I went on Survivor because I wanted to get to know, I love being a lawyer, but I felt as if it's a very insular community sometimes. My wife is a lawyer. All of our closest friends are lawyers for the most part. That's what my life is here.
Mm-hmm.
And I wanted to sort of get out, meet new people, learn new things because I just love, like I said, when we're talking about other things, I like to be a part of different communities and just not feel pigeonholed. And so I was having the time of my life out there. What do you mean? I get to hang out with a blue collar firefighter who's a single mom from Chicago. And I get to learn from her. I get to learn from a woman who, talks about her autism openly, but plays ice hockey. All of those conversations, all of those moments. And then I get to go compete on the show that I fucking love.
Yeah.
It was an incredible experience, an incredible experience. And I sometimes you just embrace the suck. I
Yeah.
guess.
Yeah. I like that line.
Sorry, I got to get pumped
Just
up
embrace
about
the
it.
suck. I know you get fired up thinking about it. When you think about all these different personalities, different stories and backgrounds, I'm always curious, and I ask this pretty much on anybody that comes on this show from any reality show. Is there anything peculiar about the casting process that you look back on? You're like, huh, that was a weird question. Or I had to do 1,000 question survey with a psychologist. Is there anything peculiar through the casting process?
Yeah, I just think it's the process in general. Like I watched your episode with Amanda,
Yeah.
and my wife and I were huge fans of Summer House.
Yeah.
And I remember you mentioned that, like you didn't think you were a reality TV guy.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And that was definitely my experience. I always talk about it's a miracle that I got cast on the show. I guess I have, some pretty interesting things about my background,
Yeah.
but I'm just not that guy. And like, I think that was a large part of the criticism of me that season was like, this guy's not the best TV
Yeah.
sometimes. So all that to say, in casting, and I'm interested if you ever dealt with this, but you feel like you're kind of ratcheting up your personality 30%.
100%.
And it feels inauthentic at first, but
Yeah.
you get used to it. But you also have to talk about yourself all the time. And that's just not my MO. I guess now it kind of is, but like you have to talk about yourself all the time, ratchet up your personality and sell the most TV oriented things about yourself. And that was really weird for me.
Yeah.
And it still is really weird for me, but that I hope that sort of answers your question.
Well, it's so funny you said that because a friend of mine is getting casted for a show, and this friend was asking me, what are your thoughts and what should I do and what are some things I should think about? I said, we're going to take your personality and you're 4 out of 5 when you and I are just sitting there. I said literally verbatim, I go, we're going to dial it into like an 8 or 9.
Yep.
We're going to be extra animated, a little bit more vocal, and we're going to tell our stories with a lot more emotion. And it's just the reality of like, if you want to get picked for these shows, you have to give them a show because all they care about at the end of the day is storytelling and ratings. That's
Exactly.
what it is, right?
Exactly.
So that's what it's all about. Let's go into this. You got 18 people there. Your likelihood of winning going into that's roughly around 6% or so. Day one, you're looking around. Are you thinking, pun intended, just survive, make the next cut, get to the top 10? Or do you really in your mind believe you are going to win this thing?
Up until the point that we got to the island, when the game started, I thought I've always thought that I've had an awesome shot at winning. Now, the people around me, in Survivor, people who are conventionally athletic or people who are seen to be social butterflies and stuff, they get to a certain part of the game, the merge, but then they usually get cut.
Mm-hmm.
And so everybody around me was terrified that I'd probably get cut right around the middle of the game. The ego that takes to go on to reality TV, I was like, I know I can do this. I know I can play this game. Just be myself, talk to people, like get to know them and like let them get to know you. That said, the moment we hit that beach and I was ready to go into that first challenge, I was the most nervous I've ever been in my life. I am not that much of a nervous person. I argued a trial in law school on behalf of a kid facing felony allegations. Giving that opening was the best moment of my life. I was having so much fun. I don't get chills that much. I was terrified going out on that beach. And my first day is historically one of, I think, the worst starts for a winner, certainly. I had like a tough go at it in the first challenge, something that I should have been able to do easily. Then I lost to a guy in a one-on-one challenge who had just dislocated his arm, and I broke my challenge. So that first day humbled me. So I broke my jug that like ended the challenge, essentially disqualified myself. That essentially like put me down to planet Earth, and I was terrified I was going to be voted out first, which fortunately I wasn't. I won the game, but it was definitely tough.
What do you think if you had to attribute one thing to your success in the game, making it all the way to differentiate yourself? What do you think that game plan was? What was the big differentiator?
Yeah, it sounds redundant, but I said my motto going in there was people first.
Yeah.
A lot of people think that Survivor is this strategy game, and it is. There's so much intricacy to it, but you cannot, it's not chess. You have to get to know people first before you can freaking play the game. But I think just listening and kind of just listening instead of talking and just knowing, I was hyper aware of what's going on. I think that like, not to go on a tangent here, but the way I grew up, I was constantly navigating between sort of Black environments and white environments. And I sort of developed this skill that can sometimes be harmful where I'm hyper aware of things. How am I coming across? How do these people perceive me? Am I being the person that I need to be right now? And I think that sort of sensitivity that I've had my entire life suited me perfectly for Survivor.
So interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah. One of the decisions you made towards the end, which I thought was really interesting, is you took Joe to the final three. Was that decision based on loyalty or calculation to win?
It was both.
Okay.
It was both. Joe and I had talked about that. I knew that I had a very strong chance of winning. At the same time, I wanted to take Joe to the end. I knew that I could beat the person who people told me that I couldn't beat. I knew I could do it if they just knew my game, if I had a chance to explain it. I think that's the conundrum that a lot of people get into Survivor. You'll see these people play these games, but then they don't necessarily have the chance to explain it fully, or they don't get the tool, they don't have the tools to explain it fully at the end of the game. I knew like speaking is my bread and butter.
Yeah.
So I knew that I could pull that off.
Interesting. So we talked about a little bit of starvation. What about sleep deprivation? How hard is it to sleep in those circumstances, and how big of an impact did that have?
Oh, it's pretty tough. It's pretty tough. I think that on top of just the conditions,
Mm-hmm.
just being away from, a lot of people go to sleep next to their loved ones. Some people go to sleep in the most comfortable place, that you have none of that. You're with just straight strangers in the jungle, which is obviously pretty difficult. Very difficult to sleep, though. I do okay without that much sleep. I'm an early morning, early riser, which I think is another reason that did me well in the game. But it was really tough. Some people had a much harder time than I did, I would say, and we had some issues over snoring and stuff like that. That was pretty funny.
If you had to guess how many hours on average you slept a night, what do you think?
Oh man, I would say 3.5, 4.
Yeah.
And it's interrupted 3.5, 4, because I was waking up at least every 45 minutes. You're lucky if you get like an hour and a half straight. And when you wake up, you're thinking about the game. Is somebody else talking behind my back? Am I doing what I'm supposed to be doing? I'm just running through all the conversations I had that day. And then you calm your mind down, you go back to sleep. But it's tough. It's tough out there.
Obviously, you won, so you're the champion. But looking back at your time playing the game, what's one move you would have made differently?
One move I would have made differently. So winning rewards. So like I said, there's no food. So as you get later into the game, you have chances to win rewards.
Yep.
And if I were to write a book on Survivor and things not to do, I would say don't win reward, because when everyone else in front of you is starving and you have the power to literally, in my instance, feed them fried chicken and waffles, go have beers on a boat, go like stand on, this awesome island elsewhere. I literally pissed off everyone else on that island. I upset some of the people that I did take on the reward. It was still an awesome time. But I think that's the one moment, if I ever thought that I might be in danger, that was the one moment that I thought might affect my game.
Yeah, interesting. All right, we always talk about breaking points on the show. What was your lowest breaking, like your lowest point emotionally, mentally? What day was it? What happened? And walk me through that, because there had to be high points and there had to be at least one low point.
There was a scene towards the end of the game. It was actually the day before the finale.
Mm-hmm.
And I had won the final immunity challenge. And I ended up taking Joe to the end. And my number one ally, Camilla, who was obviously big competition for me. I think everybody at that point was big competition. But Camilla had been with me the entire game.
Mm-hmm.
And making that decision, not only did I put Camilla, my number one ally, who I'd been with the entire game, into fire. So that was very difficult emotionally decision. Eva and I have an extremely close relationship. She's like a little sister to me. We were very tight out there. We talked for hours every single day. She's my best friend, she's best friend of mine. And, putting her into fire and seeing what she had to go through in that moment was incredibly difficult for me. They showed a little bit of it on the show, but she had an episode and she got through it. And the moment that I picked her to take fire, I wanted to take it back because I knew how much pain it had put her in.
Yeah.
But she refused to let me take it back. And she refused to let anybody else take it from her. And she went in and she did this challenge herself. And it was impeccable. It was incredible. Both of those women, Eva and Camilla. But I felt like I had wronged two people that I was incredibly close with when I had to make that decision. And, it got better, but that was a really tough decision to make.
You had a secret alliance with Camilla, for people that did not watch the show. But one thing I'm curious is, you're constantly playing the game, and the game also connects to lying and sometimes backstabbing. So what did you learn about trying to read people as they're lying or potentially backstabbing? Did they have tells? Was there certain information you started to pick up on? How did you start to see when people are trying to manipulate you, lie to you, or even backstab you?
Yeah, I think this is what makes Survivor an amazing game.
Yeah.
Because, of course, some people have tells, but what I learned about reading people is that you're foolish if you actually think that you can read people. No, I'm a defense attorney. Like, you hear all these cops say they can read people or that they're better investigating or not, but then a lot of these people get things wrong.
Yeah.
But on the island, especially when you're starving and when you're struggling, everybody's telling some sort of lie. Everybody's telling something. So what I learned to lean on was, of course, I'm going to try and read people in the moment, but part of what made my game great, I think, is that I had the social capital to talk to everyone. I knew what was going on for the most part with everyone. Instead of trying to read people in their tells, what's the information you're giving me? What is the information this person and this person's giving me? I'm going to cross-check it just like I do as a lawyer. I'm going to look at all the documents in front of me, and then I'm going to come to a decision on my own. I think there's a lot of people who are out there and they say like, oh, I can catch people. My first job was at a bar. Bartenders, I was a bar back when I was 16, and they always used to say like, look to the left. People look to the left when they're lying. I just don't think it's true. I think that you have to use your investigative skills and actually get facts and information and then use it. And I think that's what makes good Survivor players.
Okay. Speaking of good Survivor players, we are going to ask you a little bit about who you would hire and fire. So if you could think about all the Survivor cast out there, okay? You could either, we'll let you do it your season, or it could be any Survivor alumni. We're going to start with the easy one. You can hire one person when you start your next business venture, whatever it might be. Who from the Survivor franchise or from season 48 would you hire, knowing you get one hire?
That is really tough. Who one person I would hire? I think I would hire. I'm going to hire the season 47 winner.
Okay.
Rachel Lamont.
Okay. Lamont.
She just came out with this incredible speed-based puzzle game.
Okay.
She's a graphic designer, and I think that everything that like she does is just really kind of eloquent.
Okay.
And she's already got the graphic designer skills. I feel like I'm somebody who I have a lot of ideas, but I need people who can actually bring them to life and make them look good. So I feel like that would be a great partnership between Rachel and I.
Okay.
So I'll go Rachel, graphic designer. I want it to get out of my season. I think that she would be solid.
That's who you're going to hire from your season. You got to fire one person. So assume they all they all work for you for your business. You got to fire one person. Who you firing?
On my season?
Yep.
Oh, this is gonna be awesome. I'm firing Camilla.
Oh.
Camilla talks so much trash.
Yeah.
I'm firing Camilla, and she's gonna sue me and take me for everything I own.
Okay.
But because she's a fighter. But I'm firing Camilla.
Okay.
Even though I think we'd be good business partners too.
Okay, I like it. Make sure you have good business insurance in case she does. All right. So here's my question for you. These are some questions and things that we were wondering if you guys get behind the scenes, if production provides you, or what it looks like. Okay. Tell me what you can and can't share. But the first one we were curious about is sunscreen.
I can't go into it, unfortunately. I'm sorry.
No way. Okay. All right. So none of those like can you share if you get toilet paper?
No, we definitely do not get toilet paper.
Okay.
I'll tell you that.
Okay.
We are in the ocean. It's called aqua dumps. Don't have to get into it too much. But like, here's what I will
didn't know that. It's called aqua dumps.
Oh yeah, man. It's like it's one of the first things you learn. You think everybody thinks they're gonna pick up leaves and stuff like that, and you have to. But not with getting into it too much.
Yeah.
A lot of times when you go to the bathroom, you're just going out in the ocean. You're just there, and you got to figure it out.
Okay, I think this one's fair game to ask, and you can tell me no if it's not, but it seems like a fair game. What about like toothbrush, toothpaste?
No. Like, so this is the thing. It's like people think you get things, you just don't.
Yeah, I think
that's part of it.
Assume you get some kind of kit or something.
No. I mean, like, I think that it's pretty well known that if people have something like medication or something that doesn't give them an advantage, but they can still compete if they take it, and it allows like somebody who otherwise wouldn't be able to. I think that's pretty well known.
Yeah.
But otherwise, like, I'm telling you the truth, you're just out there. Like toothbrushes, we take little sticks, you twiddle them down, and then every morning you brush your teeth. And like the thing about that's tough is like, I didn't even think it was going to be worth it to try and brush my teeth, but you really feel the gunk if you don't.
Of course.
Yeah. So it's brutal out there, man. I'm trying to, it's so funny how many people will come up to me and be like, so did they slip you some food behind the scenes or Nutri-Grain bar?
I think that's what we all
And I'm
think.
like, no way, man. This is really hard.
Like insect repellent. There's none of that.
No. You rub different stuff on you. Like sometimes you like boil coconut oil, coconut and stuff like that, and like use that for hair grease and stuff like that. But no.
Did you know any of that going into this, or did you learn it? Like, did you prepare prepare yourself by becoming a mini survivalist?
I did. I tried my best.
Yeah.
I'll tell you that. I mean, I was really fortunate that we had somebody on my tribe, David, who was really great at
Yeah.
the survival stuff. But I tried my best to sort of educate myself on like what I could use out there, you know, what's specific to Fiji. And I'll tell you, like the preparation was certainly helpful, but there's just nothing like being in it.
Interesting.
And the feeling you go from day one where it's so foreign to even day 5, you're like still trying to figure it out. But today, fortunate enough, like day, 15, 16, you start to really think that you're like a pro at it. And I'm sure we're not, but it felt that way. Like we really kind of learned how to survive out there.
That is totally crazy. Now, one of the questions that I think most people ask people if they're going on a date or they just meet them or they're doing an interview, it's a layup. Like you go on an island and you got to pack 5 things. What are you packing? And that's a basic question. But I think for someone like you that has been through what you've been through in one survivor, I am very, very curious of your answer. You now go on a deserted island. It's just you. You got 5 things you could throw in that suitcase. What are the 5 things you're throwing in, especially knowing for 26 days you had next to nothing?
Okay. I'm gonna go some sort of backpack to like suitcase. Sorry, yeah. I'm gonna go some sort of backpack, something that I can like continue to carry things with.
Okay.
Go machete for sure. Go flint just to make fire
Fire.
easier.
Backpack, machete, flint.
I go MP3 player. Well, no, crap, no batteries. I'm thinking a little hypothetical here.
Real quick on that thought process, was it like music for mentality?
Yeah,
Okay.
just to have something. If I'm there by myself, man, I mean, the people are what get you through it.
Yeah.
So if I don't have any noise, that's gonna be pretty brutal.
Okay.
But I bring a tarp.
Okay.
And then
Last
I mean,
one.
honestly, these are just survivor supplies. I'll bring a spearfish.
Okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah, backpack to carry around things, machete, flint, tarp, spearfish.
Okay. Interesting. All right. I asked a lot of questions behind the scenes, but what is one thing behind the scenes we might not know? I'll give you an example. In the Bachelor franchise, we don't eat our food when we go on the dates. That's one. They give us dinner before. The food just sits there. I remember one for hometown dates. The only time you get to see and talk to your parents is when they're filming because they don't want any kind of type
Yeah.
of chatter happening and influence without the camera seeing it. What's one thing maybe behind the scenes that people would find kind of interesting about Survivor?
Yeah, you spend time on boats. When I watch the show, it goes from a challenge to, or camp life, then to a challenge, and then to tribal council. And one thing that you always just kind of think it's all linear and like
Yeah.
you're just walking from place to place, but there's many different islands.
Yeah.
You're not on the same island as the other tribes at the beginning of the show. To get to challenges, they're on different islands, different places, things like that. And you're constantly going from place to place on boats and things like that. And like, people get seasick. Like it's the real deal. So I think that's one thing behind the scenes that people don't realize. I mean, certainly not me. I definitely thought that like people were literally just walking everywhere. But yeah, you spend a lot of time on the ocean on Survivor.
I love it. All right. Well, let's conclude with this. We talk money on this podcast. You wake up 26 days, you got $1 million in your bank account. There's a lot of people listening to this that feel as though if $1 million hit their bank account tomorrow, it would significantly change many, many aspects of their life. So being someone that had, like you said, you were grinding, you had some debt and your balance wasn't as high as you thought it would be. Now you got over $1 million in that bank account. How has your life changed? And what are some things that maybe you might tell your old self who didn't have that $1 million or someone listening today that's like, boy, oh boy, do I wish I just had $1 million hit my account like that.
Yeah, in terms of how I've used the money, it's been awesome just to wipe away debt, to be able to know that, I have support for the people around me who I care about. Also invest it just like to have a safety net for the first time in my life. In terms of rewinding and telling myself something or someone else, my brother and I talk about this all the time just because of the way that we grew up. My brother's also a lawyer. He's my, biggest role model, more so for him than me, but we've always felt like even though we're at this place in our life, that everything at any point could always just get, pulled from right underneath you. And I think that we both sort of live with that mindset. And for the first time in my life, because of this $1 million, I feel like it's not going to happen.
That's
Probably is not taking my advice, but it's not going to happen. And to have that sort of security for once, and also know if something happened to him or anyone else, that we have this protection is huge. But all that to say though, if I could rewind and tell myself something, I'd say, dude, like just keep on doing what you're doing and don't worry about it as much. Like live life in the moment, which sounds so cliche, but it was even hard to do that, and conceptualize that $1 million when it first hit. Still didn't feel real. And in a lot of ways, it still doesn't. But I'm so happy for it, man.
Yeah.
So happy.
Good for you. Do you think at all like there's a chance you might step away from being an attorney? Like you have some cushion. You're on season 48. They did announce, I know we can't speak to it. They announced you're on season 50. Is there any part of you that says, my dream is to walk away from this attorney work. I want to do something else.
I love being an attorney, man. That said, there's so many different things that I want to do. I'm a well-rounded guy. I think
Mhm.
that was sort of showcased on the show. I didn't even necessarily realize it about myself until I was watching it back, but I'm just somebody who likes to do so many different things and
Mhm.
try new things and meet new people. And if any opportunity arose that would allow me to sort of branch out and continue to sort of be this, creative person or, polymath or whatever the heck the term is, that would be so cool. I want to teach again. I want to work with kids again. That was as much as I love being a lawyer, I was so passionate about teaching. I want to build something of my own. I really want to own something one day that I can look at and say, like, I did that. Maybe I employed a couple people, like I helped somebody, further their life. I just have a ton of things that I want to do.
Yeah.
And so it's an awesome question. And I don't know exactly what the answer is. I want to write a book. I'm writing, some fiction right now, but I don't know the answer. But I think I'm gonna be attorney for a while, but who knows? Who knows how I'll end up.
All right, who knows? More to come. We'll see what happens. I just have a couple more questions for you. Finance podcast, $1,000,000. You mentioned investing. You got any investment tips? You got anything that you think you're definitely going to invest in, or are you working with a financial advisor to do that?
I'm working with a financial advisor, you max out those retirement plans, traditional RIAs, Roth IRAs, high index fund, the traditional stuff. I'm not
Yeah.
gonna, I think the good thing about having Maggie, my wife in the life, is that I'm the risk taker.
Yeah.
And I don't know how it would have been with $1,000,000. Maybe I'll put some money on the Bills. That'll be a good
Hey,
investment.
go Bills. We have a Bills fan here,
Yeah,
everybody.
Bills Ma.
Love that. Let's go.
But I'm gonna keep it traditional right now, just so I can keep that safety net that I was just getting emotional about.
Okay, keep that safety net. That's a beautiful insurance plan. No one can take it from you. The last question I got for you, Survivor. It's been done. Do you want to go on another reality show? And if so, what would it be?
Wow. I always said that Survivor would probably be the only reality TV show that I would go on just because I love the game so much.
Mhm.
That's truthful. That's
Mhm.
truthful. It's Survivor, man. I'll be honest with you. Who knows? Maybe if I was single, I'd go on like Love Island or
Yeah.
something. But I think I'm gonna stick
I
with
think you're
Survivor
laughing
for
like
now.
that.
Yeah, no, exactly.
Maybe like something like a Big Brother, maybe Amazing Race.
I like those shows are all cool, but they're just not my speed.
Mm.
I think that Survivor is a show that was made for or maybe I was made for Survivor. I'll put it that way. I really felt like that when I saw it. The moment I saw that first episode, I was like, that is for me. That is for me right there. So it sounds cliche. I'm sorry, but that is the show for me.
Unless Kyle is 26 days in survival mode, losing about 30 pounds and sleeping on average 3.5 hours, brushing his teeth with wooden chips that he finds on the floor, he's out. Survivor's his game, and he's a Survivor champion. Kyle, I appreciate you coming on Trading Secrets, but we got to wrap with the Trading Secrets. So it's a secret that is specific to your experience, what you've undergone, what you have continued to grow and develop to with all your different aspirations. It's Kyle Fraser's Trading Secrets. So what can you leave us with?
Yeah, man. I think that you just have to open yourself up to people wherever you are. I've lived in rural places, urban places, taught, gone to jail.
Mhm.
I've played on an island with 18 other people in an incredible game. I'm an attorney. I've lived with people who don't have a dollar to their name and some people who have a lot more than that. And I think the only thing that's allowed me to be successful and also be who I am is just not judging and opening myself up to the people around me and just trying to learn. So, that's my trading secret.
I love it. I love it. And I think my biggest trading secret learning from you is, yeah, every single stop that you've gone through in life, it feels like you've been able to acquire an ability to grow through those experiences, right? And then use those experiences and growth to help you today. And it feels like Survivor was set up for you because, like, when you talked about just always being hyper aware of your surroundings and seeing what's happening and how it's happening to put yourself in the best position to just win in life and also make impact around you, it's pretty cool. And to also see the way that, like, you talked about different areas and lifestyles that you grew up in, but also to see that you also pivoted so dramatically in a career, which is so hard to do. It's fascinating. So it's like you live a life of starts and stops and restarts, but through all of them, it's constant growth, which is really fascinating. So thank you for coming on Trading Secrets. It was really cool to learn from you. Congratulations on $1 million. How about that? To wake up after 26 days and just have $1 million in your bank account. It's pretty damn cool. Kyle, where can everyone find everything you have going on?
Yeah, thank you, thank you. Appreciate you having me on here.
Yeah,
Give me a little bit more credit, but thank you. You can find me on Instagram at Kyle Fraser, KYLEFRASR. There's no E in it, unfortunately. Couldn't get that tag. And then on TikTok, Kai Fraser.
all right. Kyle Fraser, TikTok and Instagram. Go give him a follow and make sure you check out that video of him surprising his wife. It is unmatched, unbelievable. Kyle, thank you for being on this episode of Trading Secrets.
Thank you, man. Great being with you, Jason. Thank you.